So whether that's supporting a business, in their community, whether that's, supporting a contractor, donation to a nonprofit in their local community or church. So they understand that GDP matters, right? When you control the dollar, everything in this country is controlled by the dollar, right?
Yeah.
Which is actually made up. Somebody along the way made up this fake money and said it's valued at this. My day went, I woke up today unapologetically black. So that's how today started. The go forward, man, is just honestly, man, show up and take up space in every room that I'm in. Make sure that the room knows I'm in there, and make sure and understand that I know we live in this mantra that our job is not to educate those around us who are unaware of our cultural history and ways, but at this time you're gonna have to.
Yeah.
Like
when you say take up space, can you break that down a little bit to those of us who aren't quite familiar with that?
Yeah, man. That means don't ever minimize yourself. Every room you in, show up big. Yeah. That means, say what you need to say, be all right feeling how you feel.
You sure did.
If you got to respond a certain way, respond how you need to respond. Show up and take up space. I think a lot of times we show up in these rooms and we minimize ourselves because it's comfortable, right? You don't want to deal with the conversation. I don't feel like educating people today. I'm tired. I'm drained. I'm not monolithic. I'm not feeling like representing the culture today. But you're going to have to show up, man. It's going to take all of us in each of these rooms we go in because there's only so many seats at the table, right?
Yeah.
And if it's just one or two of us at every table, you got to take up space.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Emiliano, my middle son.
Let me call you back. That is crazy.
He was
I'll talk to you more about it and stuff.
Middle school
for Ash Wednesday, but
and
I didn't hear anything about that.
He decided to play a prank.
Yeah,
and the prank was
give me a minute. I gotta
put a liquid laxative in a water bottle for this girl.
Okay, bye.
And now the child couldn't hurt my fly. And I said, this is an adult laxative. Anyway, he got caught, and I think one of his buddies snitched on him. And so I was like, okay. His mom called me at work, and she was crying. So when you hear the mother of your child crying on the phone, you know something had happened.
Yep.
So I'm thinking the worst. And then when she told me what happened, I said, okay, where are you at? She was over at St. Matthias. And because at the time he was at St. James the Less. And for folks who don't know, St. James feeds into the sales. And for him being a soccer player, I'm like, that's a great program to fall into because they got the resources to make him a better player.
I mean, I like kids, but I like them over there. You know what I'm talking about. So the hardest thing about that is the wife has been extra amped up on getting everything packed up. She's dealing with the details and all that sort of thing. And it reminded me of somebody had told me, they said, men and women are different. Dogs and cats are different. Warriors and gatherers or hunters and gatherers are different. I said, okay. So from a hunter standpoint, of which we usually are and stuff, we got one main focus. We trying to find the food. We trying to shoot the food. We trying to get the food, whatever the prey is, we trying to get it. Now, the gatherers, not to say that that's a lady's job or nothing like that. That's not what it is. But if someone's going to be out there fighting a saber-toothed tiger or something like that, it's probably going to be us. We probably better built for that. And so we're out there hunting. The gatherers, the ladies, they're looking at the berries, the spices, the herbs and spices and all that. And they have to be detailed. Is this the right berry? Do it got the right amount of seeds on it? Is it poisonous? Is it ripe in and of itself? What does it cause? I mean, does it put you to sleep? Does it give you intestinal issues? I mean, they got to know all that stuff. So they're very detailed oriented and whatnot. So the difference with hunters and gatherers.
Wow. That's an interesting one, Faye. The thing that I thought would be a piece of cake, honestly, was the give advice and they would listen. That's what I thought would be a piece of cake. But my goodness gracious, was that just the whoo? You know, when you realize that you're giving advice from your current age and your current seat in the stands, who you love, who hasn't been through what you've been through, you know, as they say, doesn't have as much mileage on these tires, and they just do whatever they want when they want, and you're trying to wrangle it in, and yet, but at the same time being nurturing. I think I struggle with that, and even to this day, I still.
But from a practical standpoint and a point that I love, when it comes to my wife and, you know, Cassandra, and mother of my children and stuff, no matter what she's feeling or what she's got going on, I'm like, I ain't going nowhere. I don't care. Once the dust settles and whatnot, then I'm standing right here. You could be mad and put a cape on and be super mad. I'm still gonna be standing right here and stuff, because you mine, I'm yours. What's up? You know, unless you got somebody else that you gonna love you better than me, you know, let me know, because I'll stand right back. But otherwise, I'm right here and I'm gonna do what I need to do as best I can. And although there's times when she's like, you know what, number 20, I'm writing up these divorce paperwork right now, number 20, and all that stuff. But, you know, for the most part, she's like, why do you do that? And I'm like, my dad always did that. He always looked out for my mom no matter what, even though she'd be as aggravated as all get out, with hair on fire and everything and stuff. But he didn't care. He's like, that's my woman. That's mother, that's who I love. I think that's what I learned from my dad, and I just don't really see it any other way from that standpoint when it comes to me. So there you have it. Oh, bruh. How so?
Man, just being able to make the lemonade out of the lemons, man, just cracking up when things happen, and, you know, life brings you stress, and, you know, the kids is kidding and the wife is wifing, you know.
So that's the best.
Final thoughts are, we have to first understand that the question of what does it look like to be free is so ambiguous, because we've never been free. So I think we spend all our time being reactionary instead of proactive, because we're so busy responding to everything. We just run around with duct tape and Band-Aids, and we never actually get to sit in a space where, what does freedom look like, and what are we actually trying to accomplish?
The whole objective here is to actually give our men a chance to sit back and say, hey, you know what? That's worth thinking on. You know, what am I going to be able to do? If money wasn't an issue, and I had all my other stuff seen in for the greater good of all of us and stuff. Yes, I got to look at my own community, and we got to give attention to where, you know, I know one of the things was Black Lives Matter, and then All Lives Matter. It's like, yeah, all lives matter, but right now it's the Black lives whose house is burning down. You know, that kind of thing. And
so, you know, like LJ said, if we don't educate ourselves and get ourselves ready for the plan, they playing chess at a high level, man. They're playing grandmaster chess out here, and we playing, you know, hopscotch, trying to keep up with a chessboard. So we're gonna have to do a better job at educating ourselves through mentorship, through programs, through, you know, whatever. And we got our own, even get ourselves into the game, right? You know, we so worried about, you know, a lot of other things, and we're gonna keep positive, but we worry about so many other things within our own race and our own culture that we slow ourselves down from even being actual contenders in the ring, so to speak. You know, if you look at the GDP of our actual culture, we're the lowest. If you look at our, you know, incarceration percentage, we're the highest.
Yeah.
You know, so we're the highest in categories we shouldn't be, and we're the lowest in categories we shouldn't be. Then at the same token, our actual buying power, every business is in place because people support them. If we would control our dollar we can actually have some say-so and influence on these organizations and corporations.
Hey, that's what they talk about with the Jewish people and stuff. I mean, they're known for keeping their dollar in circulation amongst their community and all that. And y'all heard that before?
It's typically 9 times. It touches their community 9 different times. That $1 goes through that community 9 different ways before it ever leaves the community. So whether that's supporting a business, in their community, whether that's, supporting a contractor, donations to a nonprofit in their local community or church. So they understand that GDP matters, right? When you control the dollar, everything in this country is controlled by the dollar, right? Which is actually made up. Somebody along the way just my day went. I woke up today unapologetically Black, so that's how today started. To go forward.
What's going on, y'all? What's going on, y'all? Hopefully you can hear me and whatnot. Welcome to HJ Blackmen's League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I am so happy to be here. I am Mr. Phil Strickland of MPSC Entertainment. Don't mind my man boobs. Don't mind my man boobs. We have with us today our host, the beautiful Miss FJ. Let's bring her up on the screen. Hey, FJ, can you hear me okay? Hey.
Yep, I sure can. Can you hear me all right?
Good. I'm not yelling your ear off or anything.
Wait, you are sounding a little low.
Oh, I'm a little low.
Yep.
Oh, well, shoot. Let me get my
little low, teeny low.
But
can you hear me pretty clear?
Yeah, I can hear you. Let me see here. I'm trying to get all this.
Just something to add your volume up.
Look at me. I sure did turn my volume up too, didn't I? All right, let me see here. I'm getting that all situated. Oh, thank you. All right, and we have with us also Mr. G.D. Fenderson, who's been on the show before. Let me get him pulled up here. Hey, Mr. G.D., how you doing, sir?
Doing all right. How about yourself?
Good. Oh, you sound real good. I'm switching to my headset and whatnot. Faith, why don't you start us off? How'd your day go so far?
My day or Faith's day?
Oh, I was talking Faith's day. I obviously need my headset.
Oh, no sweat. No sweat. No. Oh, no. Sorry, go ahead, Faith.
So today our topic is involving Women's History Month. So I'm going to be asking a couple questions from the perspective of you males regarding Women's History Month. The purpose of Women's History Month is to give recognition to different women that have made history. Also, we'll be taking this at the angle of the women that have affected you guys, whether it's a female friend, a wife, a mother, a sister, a cousin. I mean, we're really just going to be taking this podcast and kind of making it about Women's History Month, but coming from the perspective of you gentlemen. What's up, LJ?
Hey, what's up?
We got LJ, and I think we also have Joey Lee is jumped on here and stuff. So you're gonna have the perspective of all of us guys. How am I sounding now, Faith? Does that sound a little bit better?
Yes, absolutely. I'm catching every word.
LJ
good. Too, JD, you sound good. Joey Lee, say something for us so we can make sure we hear you all right.
Hi, I'm Joey Lee.
Oh, we got Faith rocking with the. We got Faith rocking with the gentleman. So
yeah,
is she a gentleman today?
Well, she's gonna work.
No, she's just the host.
Yeah, so she's trying to take care of us from there. Just so you guys know, I may have to step away once or twice and stuff because I'm kind of multitasking right now. But Faith will be leading the charge on all these different things that we're trying to do. So Faith, could you once kind of let the guys know what we're going to be talking about right quick, and then you can let us know the order that you want us to answer.
Yep. So the topic today regarding this podcast is going to be towards Women's History Month, but coming from a gentleman's perspective. So again, the questions that I'm going to ask, if you want to answer it in the way of a woman in history, or if you want to talk about your wives, your sisters, your cousin, a girl who's a friend, girlfriend, whatever that looks like, we're just going to be talking about some of the influential women that you guys feel are important that you guys want to talk about, highlight on. So
Man,
we
I
are going to
wish
try to
I'd have
make
known.
this under an hour. So
What'd you say,
I
hold
will
on.
go.
You gotta let Faith do what you gotta do. Go ahead. I'm sorry, FJ.
No, you're good. So the order that I'm going to start out with, if we have to switch it out at a point, that's fine. But I'm going to go LJ first, Mr. Phil second, JD third, and Joey Lee fourth. That all right with everybody?
Yep, sounds good.
All right.
GD.
So
You know what? You might want to let somebody else go before me, because I want to do some research. Because for the Friday thing that we're doing with DJ Frost,
Yes,
I
sir.
actually was looking up some stuff, and there's actually some I can't remember their names, but there's 3 women who are actually hidden figures, and they were, and if it weren't for these 3 women on separate occasions, we wouldn't have things like GPS, cell phones, things of that nature, because they were the ones that came up with these ideas. 3 black women and a couple guys and stuff. So I kind of want to look that up. So if I can, I don't want to go first.
that's good. Well, we'll switch it. We'll go Mr. Phil first, just because you might have to cut in and out. Again, I'm going to tell you guys right now, so no alarm. They're not history questions directly. It's mostly about your opinion. So if you want to take it that way, or you want to highlight somebody from history, that's literally fine. But just understand, I'm not here to give you a history quiz. But again, we're just highlighting on some of the accomplishments of women in history, women around us, family, friends, that kind of thing, however you want to take it. So we'll go ahead and start out with Mr. Phil Strickland.
I'm ready.
Question is, the first question is, who is the most influential woman that you know, and why does she inspire you?
Well, it seems like a no-brainer. That would be my mother. And the way that she inspired me was more how she carried herself. I was the eldest of 3 in a military family, and that came with its own unique set of challenges and stuff. Although unbeknownst to me, as I'm sitting there as a 3-year-old, and we have this Doberman, and my dad is overseas, and it's just me and my mom, who everyone seems to know how to talk to, and I'm just like, just looking at different things and going from there and stuff. But when she told me that, hey, you know what, you're gonna have a little brother, I'm like, why? It's just me and the dog. We're good. We don't need anybody else and stuff. She's like, you're gonna have one. And so, but how she managed the household, how she taught us how to meet people on common ground with what's called common courtesy. Even my relationship with the Lord, was started with my mom and how she handled things and stuff. Now, out of all the kids, the one who got the most butt whoopings, me. Here we go. Yeah, from my mom, boy, she wore me out and stuff when I wasn't acting right. But it's usually because I was overthinking things. But as time has gone on, she's been the one to be there to help, dust me off when I fell down and suffered the agony of defeat. So for me, it had to be my mom, Miss Denise.
All right, that's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. LJ, would you like to go next, or would you like me to skip and go ahead?
No, I'll go ahead and go next.
Okay.
So who's the most
who
influential
woman in your perspective, and why?
I would have to say Phil's mom. No, I'm just joking. But no, Phil's mom, I've met her, and although she is a wonderful woman, that looks like a woman you do not want to mess with at all. I'm just saying she don't. So I don't know what the problem was with you, Phil, messing with that lady. But whatever you got, you deserved it. That's all I want to say. But no, I'm gonna have to say the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, we gotta look at it this way. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for our mothers. The most influential woman in my life is my mother. She taught me a lot of things. Yeah, she whooped my butt too and things, and she got me right, got me got me on the correct path and stuff. But it's not just the whoopings and the things of that nature, or even the birthings, but it's just the wisdom that she imparted to me. It's a lot of things that she did that taught me lessons, and some of those lessons were obvious, and then some not so obvious. I'm gonna give you a quick one. There was one time I got into a fight with somebody at school. I was in elementary, and the guy called my mom fat. And so, when I got home, long story short, my mom was like, I just want to talk to you about it, but you're still in trouble. Why'd you fight him? Like, he called you fat. And my mom was a heavy set lady. And she was like, so am I? I'm like, hesitant as a kid, because moms slap quick. They reflexes is fast. So I don't know if this was go, garner her reflexes. But I was like, yeah. And she was like, well, why would you fight someone for telling the truth? That's just their honest opinion. If it's true, then you can't be mad about it. Fast forward to the future, I got into it with his friend because I beat him up. So his friend thought that he can handle me, and he called my mom the B word. Long story short, conversation again with my mom, and she asked me, well, you fought him for that, am I? And I'm like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, hell yeah. but out front, she was like, I was like, no, mom, you're not a B. And he was like, well, why would you fight somebody for lying? And if you know the truth and you know the reality of it, so I'm thinking to myself, what can I say what can I do to these people if they insult you? What can I do? And basically, that was my mom's lesson, to say that what people's opinions are of you and what people's words are, let them think what they're going to think, because you can't go around changing everybody's mind, and you can't allow people to always, control your emotions with their words. Sometimes they're telling the truth. And so why are you mad about the truth? Sometimes they're lying. If you know it's a lie, then why would it bother you? I mean, just continue to, as long as I had a guy one time call me broke, I immediately checked my phone, like, hold up, he might know something I don't know. Let me see what my investment portfolio say. Ooh, I made money today. I'm good. In other words, his words had no bearing or power or meaning over my life. And that was the lesson that my mom taught me. It was very obscure. I didn't understand it. But as I grew and got older, it came to me. And as my mom will always say, just listen to me. Let it go in one out the other, because when that moment comes, it'll ring in your ear. And just like in the movie Carrie, when her mom was like, they're all gonna laugh at you. That's exactly how it sounded in my ear with my mom. It was like, don't let them get you like that. Don't let them get you like that. It just rings in your ear. So those things shape you. And my mom was the one that, helped to shape me with her wisdom and critiques and love and violence.
Well, thank you for sharing. We definitely appreciate it. Thank you for your perspective. JD, who was the most influential woman for you and why?
Well, at the risk of sounding like a copycat, I'm going to say Phil's mom. No, no, I'm sorry. No, it was definitely my mother. My father died when I was very young, and so my mother was concerned that I would not have a male role model to know how to be a man, and so her perception of what a man should be is what she instilled in me. So, as a matter of fact, I was interviewing a young woman today, another comedian, and she had paid me a compliment about my demeanor, about my attitude towards women in comedy and stuff like that. And I explained to her, I said, well, I turned out as the concept of what my mother thought a man should be, and not what my father thought a man should be. Because my father, for some reason, he decided to die when I was really small. I don't know. Maybe it was depression. Maybe it was my mother that did it. But so my mother was very smart, very competitive, and in my material, I will often say, my mother said, and to be honest, it's a lie, because they'll say my mother. I will say my mother said there's no such thing as bad words, only bad intentions. That's a lie. My mother never said that. What my mother did was give me a lecture that lasted about 10 years. And I knocked that 10 years down to that one sentence. There's no such thing as bad words, only bad intentions. My mother did have a quote, don't do as I say, don't do as I do as I say. And do as I say, not as I do, because she knew she was a flawed person. So she wasn't a perfect person. My mother was, like I said, she was strong. She was a rape survivor. And even though it affected a lot of what she did, she tried not to let that affect the way she raised me, but it did, because it was just obvious. You could tell that there was a total difference between the way she raised me, and I was born after the rape, and the way she raised my other brothers and sisters before the rape. I was 6 years old. My mother was teaching me what consent was, and I had no idea what she meant. And I thought she meant that I had to ask my brothers and sisters before I played with their toys. That's what I thought she was, because she didn't tell us about, the rape. It was something, she didn't hide it. She just waited until we were old enough, So it was my mother, no doubt. I mean, now most of the teachers I had growing up were women as well. And so I had tons of influence from teachers. Although my most influential teacher was my two most influential teachers were both gay men. They were like the best teachers I ever had, probably because they were like the best of both worlds, man and woman. So, but that's it. It was my mom. She was most influential.
Well, thank you for sharing. We really appreciate it. Joey Lee, I see you're holding up. Well, why don't you explain what you're holding up? Is that your mother as well?
My mom, that's her in the picture, and she's holding up a picture of her and my dad. And what this is, I'm gonna put it down. What this is when my dad died, my sister had made a big long obituary, and so whatever what was his name? His name was Hardin. He did like social humorous and type stories or in the accents. And he saw this obituary and he called us about a week after my dad passed away and said, your dad sounds like an interesting man. Could we come and do an article about him? So they came over and interviewed us, asked us questions, and out came this article. I put it in my kitchen because it reminds me every day of my heritage, of my mom and dad. And I'm not going to talk about my dad for now, but my mom, she grew up in Italy, of course. Both my parents were Italian. And during what they call the White Widow era, that's when men would go to the United States, work, come back, get their wives pregnant, go back to the United States, bring money, get their wives pregnant, go back to Italy. When I look back at my mom's history, she probably only saw her dad, up to 18 years of age, maybe a couple of years of that. So she had to grow up not in a divorced family, but in essence, she didn't have her father. When the war came, my grandfather and her two brothers were in the United States. Her and her mother and a few other sisters were in Italy. Right next door to their house, I mean, all the houses are kind of stuck together, was a German command post. Germans had, when the Italians basically gave up, the Germans swept in and took over, and they lived right next door to my mom and her sisters and her mother, my grandmother. And there were, obviously the Allies were bombing. They were like right next to a mountain. On one side were the Germans, on the other side were the Italians. And she lived through that. She talks about it, in not so emotional ways, but I'm sure it had to have been a tough time. You know, with this house full of women and these Germans, you know, what could happen? Um, in the end, nothing happened, but I'm sure those were tough times. She then came to the United States with her family. They settled in near Pittsburgh. She married my father, um, and just knowing all the things she went through personally, to come here without any money, to have it marry a man with no money, um, to build to be the support for my dad so he could start a business. Um, a lot of the things that she did was very behind the scenes, but you know, I don't remember her saying like, well, a phrase or anything like that, but she was just always there. And I remember when she passed away, when my dad passed away, I cried. I was sad. But when my mother passed away, I had belly cries for half an hour, because she was my very heart when I lost her. But you know, I have a lot of great memories of her. She taught me how to make spaghetti. I used to make spaghetti with her, homemade spaghetti. Um, I just have so many memories of her. But my father, I can say he taught me work ethic. My mom she was just there and she loved me. And, you know, so she's the most inspirational person in my life because of how much she endured to come here to the United States and with my dad, um, build a future for me, and also just being there and loving me. Um, I just can't say more. But my dad has the paper done, but my mom made it happen, or helped it make it happen.
Well, thank you so much for sharing some information about yourself and also letting us know, how influential your mom was to you. DJ Frost. So I want to just give you a little tidbit about what the podcast is today, but the podcast is actually representing Women's History Month, as in I'm getting some perspective from you guys with a couple questions along the lines of influential women, whether it's in history, in your family, within your friends, just kind of getting a little bit of perspective from you guys on that end. So the question I've been asking everybody is, who is the most influential woman you know, and why does she inspire you?
Um, Thank you all for having me on the platform. First and foremost, I appreciate it. Um, my grandmother, Elva Riggins, was my inspiring woman in my life. She taught me how to take care of myself. So if I didn't have no one to uh, be with, I was self sufficient. She taught me how to balance a checkbook, taught me how to wash, taught me how to wash dishes, taught me how to cook, taught me how to make a garden. So yeah, my grandmother Elva Riggins was um, very inspiring in my life.
Hmm. All right. Thanks so much for sharing. This next question is actually kind of it's a shorter question, but again, I know we live in a time where there's a lot of different opinions regarding this question. Feel free to keep it as honest as you would like. Uh, yeah, I'll leave it at that. A lot of opinions right now about this type of question, but again, this is your perspective. And here with MPSC Entertainment, they really value your honest opinion because you are valid to have an opinion. But the next question is, do you think naturally that women and men are different? Why or why not? And I'll go ahead and start with Mr. Phil. Then we'll go to LJ, JD, Joey, and DJ Frost. But Mr. Phil, what is your perspective on this? Do you think that naturally women are different than men? Why or why not?
I think that I think there is a difference, just like there's a difference with offense and defense, just like there's a difference with fire and water, dogs and cats, um, there's a difference to the point of it's really it's better that way, and it's necessary, to for a plane to fly, there has to be, wind coming the opposite way so there can be lift and whatnot. And so a lot of times, whether it's the red side of the battery terminal or the black side of the battery terminal and stuff, there's, you have to have differences. And I was a girl dad, and what I like to say is funny because it was me, my brother, and then my sister. So I was a girl dad, he was a boy dad, and my sister had girls and boys, so I was just like, man. But one of the things I learned quick was the difference in how I was raised, and how I actually needed to raise my daughters. And it wasn't something that I could just be like, whatever, do what you need to do, pop, look, get yourself situated. And that wasn't the best way to handle it in any way, shape, or form and stuff. So I found myself using things like, you know what, go on, stand in the corner till you got a better attitude. And why? Because I understood that the way they looked at life was a lot different than, say, I didn't have sons, but my knuckleheaded nephews. I look at them, I'm like, if I have to put this boot in your behind, I will not hesitate and stuff. But as for the ladies, and again, me being the dad I was, and as I watched them and watched how they operate and how they thought, I realized that I was able to appreciate things in a different way. And that old saying of, hey, I can get my wife a house, but she makes it a home. And that's important, because there's a lot of things I didn't pay attention to, and there's a beauty in that. And so I think that that is something that the differences and stuff need to be cherished and looked at as more of a not just with male and female, but even if you take it a step beyond that, with this diversity, equity, inclusion, we want everyone to be the same, and it don't matter where they came from, they should be able to do what they got to do, and blah blah blah. Who cares? I think a lot of that we have to look at it more as a mosaic, a beautiful picture with a lot of different colors and a lot of different things, because saying one is better than the other is tantamount to nighttime is better than daytime. The mountains are better than the rivers, and that's not even the proper question to be asking and stuff. And so yeah, the whole idea of men and women, male and female, I know that there's different folks that feel different ways and different identities and stuff, and I'm not here to judge none of that. All I know is from the standpoint of the differences that we have and that we're given at birth, I can appreciate that. Does that kind of answer that question?
It sure does. So thank you for your perspective. That was that definitely gives us all something to think about. LJ, would you like to answer this question? Do you think that there are differences naturally between women and men, and why do you feel that way, or why do you not feel that way? Your mute's on.
Your mute's on, brother. Look at him. He's running it too.
There we go. That depends on what side of the pronoun you're on. You know what I'm saying? Because I actually met a nice young lady earlier in Walmart bathroom stall. She was next to me. I mean, so we had similarities, obviously. Nah, just joking. But anyway, no. Yes, there's differences, but I believe that those differences run tantamount to the similarities. In other words, biblically, a woman was created to be a help meet for a man, and people get it mixed up when they think of help meet as like help mate. No, she was not a mate. She was there to help you meet your obligations and expectations. So she was exactly in the same authority as you. she wasn't like to, although I know we believe women to be, you know, submissive and things of that nature. No, she was actually, you know, she was actually in the same amount of authority as the man. So she ran the same jobs and positions as the man, but there are obvious differences, you know, physical differences, things like of that nature. But I feel like a woman is the opposite side of the coin. You have two sides of a coin. You have your heads, you have your tails, and I feel like the woman is the opposite side of that coin, but it's the same coin. If you think about it, it's the exact same coin. It's just two different sides of it. And when a man and a woman come together, what do they say? You know, the two become one flesh. Um, so with that being said, I know we're speaking of men and women outside of that, but also inside of that is to explain how the similarities are there. And I just feel like the woman has differences that balance out the man, just as the man has differences that balance out the woman. So to be honest with you, yes, there are obvious differences, but I feel that they are there to meet the same expectations and goals. And when you put those differences together, you become the same unit. You know, it's just like a team. Like Phil is a firefighter. You know what I'm saying? He has different people that fight with him. Women. He had, you know, you got men that might be 6 feet 30 inches tall and somebody that might be 4 or something. But when they work together, they're a well-oiled unit, and they're like cogs and different things that's put together that make that machine work. You know, it's that same thing. It's still, your cell phone is still a cell phone, but it still has different parts that come together. Or as Phil says, you know, many hands make light work. So many parts make light work. And I feel like there are the differences, but those differences bring out the similarities, if that makes sense.
That sure does. That sure does. Thank you, LJ. JD, are you ready to answer this question? If you are open to it, do you think naturally women and men are different? Why or why not?
Well, yes, they are. And basically, we are our brains. And I'm just going to go with nature, and I'm just going to leave out nurture for the time being. And that's because while nurture plays a big part of it, you know, how we've raised men and women to see themselves biologically, the difference, regardless of how you're raised, men's brains are arranged so that they're better at like single tasking, focusing in on things one at a time, while women's brains are designed to be better at multitasking. Women's brains are better at, let's say, word memory, social cognition, verbal skills, which is why women tend to want to express their feelings much more than men. Men aren't so good with that, but we are better with like spatial recognition. You know, like I can load a dishwasher like nobody's business. Okay. And I hate it when someone else loads my dishwasher because they just don't have the same spatial recognition. I will fit 20% more. Whatever you do, I will fit 20% more dishes in the dishwasher. Now, there's different. Now, like I said, there's no difference in intelligence. No, that's no difference. But also, when it comes to the way the brain is wired, men. Now, see, this is where I'm going to get confused. I think men are predominantly right-brained. Right brain is artistic. I think left brain is logical. So men are, for the most part, their hemisphere, they use more of the logical side, and the women use more of the artistic side of the brain as a general rule of thumb. But as the whole brain goes, women have more connections between the two than men do, but men have more connections inside of each hemisphere. I had to, and now as far as I have, back when I was a student studying religion before I became a minister, one of the things that, well, in the process of becoming a minister, I'm not a minister anymore, but one of the things we had to do was look at the history. And there was a time, there's a book that we have called When God Was a Woman. And it talks about before Christianity. And as a matter of fact, it's alluded to in the New Testament because they were destroying a lot of temples of Dionysus, I think, and other temples where they were built toward women. Especially in Africa, there were a lot of female gods, a lot. And women were held in a little bit higher esteem. And I guess through whatever you want to call it, basically once monotheism took over, and most of that was taken over by war, because whatever side won, that's the god you worshipped. You couldn't worship the god if you were the losing side. We had like a patriarchal system based on that. But even if you look at Hebrew, the word Elohim is male and female. It's a masculine word with a feminine ending, and it's a plural word and it's a pluralistic word. And it's not singular. So Elohim is a multiple individual, and it's male and female. But sorry, that was God texting me, telling me stop that. You're overrunning. You're running over. No, I'm just teasing. God doesn't text me. His phone. He hadn't paid his phone bill in years. But that's it. It's basically their differences are because of the biology, for the most part. Now there's social structure, but part of that social structure is also because if you play towards your strengths, like if you have a 400-pound guy and he can't throw, you're not going to make him a quarterback. So by nature, he's going to be a lineman or something. And if you have someone who can kick but can't catch, they're going to be a punter. And I'm not saying that men and women can and can't do these, understand, but the way the brain is wired, they're geared towards certain things. So yeah, in short, there's a difference, sure.
Well, thank you for your perspective. We definitely appreciate it. Joey Lee, would you like to answer this question? Your mute is on.
And
there we go.
The book is about how to strengthen your relationships with God, your spouse, your children, and your world. So we're going to talk about the spouse side. So I'm going to show you a few pictures. Hopefully they'll show up. But this is a picture of a beautiful picture. I don't know if you can see it well. Can you see it well? I could talk through it. I'll just.
I like that one. That's a good picture right there. Oh.
The goal, a lot of people ask the question, what is the goal of marriage? Is it procreation? Is it safe S word? Is it what is it? And I deeply thought and researched it. And in the end, the goal of marriage is to play out the relationship of Christ and the church. So when people see you as a couple, they should be able to think to themselves or even say, wow, these people are playing out to us the bigger picture of Christ and the church. So men have different roles than the women in that story. Men are the head, but they're not the autocratic dictatorship type leaders. They're sacrificial leaders. And women are the ones that help. And men are the ones that help the woman achieve all that they want to achieve in Christ. So there is a looks like a hierarchy. The men are over the women, but in reality, it's not as great as you think, because the man who basically acts like a dictator really never gets the benefit of the relationship that God intended for he and his spouse or significant other. In the second chapter, I talk about, show these two puzzle pictures. Obviously those, but a lot of times men will think about, trying to put two puzzle pieces together. They don't fit. They don't fit. And that isn't the way you should look at your wife. You should be looking at what strengths does she have that I don't, and capitalize on those. And what strengths do I have and she doesn't? And we can capitalize on that. So instead of trying to jam two pieces together that don't fit. So we tend to not do that. We tend not to look at our wives. Then there's just oneness. And as we look at the over here at this other chart, we look at as we grow towards knowing God, as we pray together. I recommend that couples pray together every day, especially before they go to work, to unload and unburden um, their issues before each other, before God, so they could pray for each other during the day when they're not together. That's a oneness. Also, communication is very important. Instead of the man just saying, "Here's how it is, let's do it," he says, "Here's what I think. What do you think?" Because men, as others have mentioned, are great at fixing things. Women are good at relationships. Um, so if this is a relationship issue, you should lean on the woman's understanding. If it's more of a, we got to fix it, maybe the man is better to kind of lead the discussion. But in the end, the goal is win-win, that both of you agree, because in life, you're going to come up with all kinds of issues with your kids, your jobs, your eggs are too expensive, whatever. Um, and you're going to have to deal with that. And then the next chapter, we talk about, I'm not going to show you that picture, but the rib. Why did God take it out of the side? Why didn't he take it out of the head? Like women are on top of the men, or on the men's feet where men are trampling on them, or in his back. Women are behind the man. No, he took it out of the side because they are together. They're together. And the woman, the symbol of the rib is that the woman guards the heart of the man, just like Abigail um, um, did that for David, even though they weren't married. But it's an excellent picture of how he wanted to just, his maleness said, "Oh, let's go out and kill those people who won't give us stuff." Nabal, who was Abigail's husband, but Abigail intercepted him and said, "No, no, no, you don't want to shed innocent blood. You're going to be king someday. You don't want to have this on your hands." And he listened to her. Um, and that's an excellent picture of how wife guards the heart of the man, because men tend to just want to just be violent and that kind of thing. And then I guess lastly, God said, "Love your wives," and he told the women to submit to their husbands. Now, why would God put that in the Bible? Well, it's because we naturally don't do that. Men, if you ask them, what would they rather have, love or respect? They'd all say respect for the most part. Because we all are in a working world for the most part, and we're sort of working together, but we're basically competitors as well. And so we don't naturally want love, but women don't naturally respect. They want love, but they don't naturally respect. So God warns us and tells us, please think different outside of your humanness and love your wives. And love isn't just a feeling, it's outlined in the Bible. The same love that's used when God said he loves us is the same exact word of how when he says love each other. It's the same word. And then when we look at the word, it's action oriented. It's all the attributes of Christ. Being Love is kind. Love is, that whole scripture. ask yourself, are you kind? Are you kind to your wife? Are you um, what's the one for anger? Or not being angry. Long suffering. Are you long suffering towards your wife? You know, not just, oh, I brought her roses every day, or I kiss her, or, you know, stuff like that. No, no, no. What about the real things of how you treat her? So there are differences, obviously. I guess that was your original question. And again, you have to be oneness, but you don't have to be sameness. There's a difference. Have I talked too long?
We appreciate your perspective. We do. And we appreciate the pictures to go with it as well.
Sorry.
Absolutely. Thank you so
Buy
much,
the book.
Joey Lee.
You'll be able to see it better.
Yeah. Well, thank you. DJ Frost, would you like to answer this question?
I would like to say again, uh, I would like to thank everyone for allowing me to be a part of this podcast. And to answer the question, men are different from women. Um, I was always told a happy house is a happy spouse is a happy house. Um, I don't know what happened. Can't see you all. Can you all hear me or see me? Okay.
Yep. You just
All right.
remade
Yes,
the
we
main
can hear you.
screen. So, yep.
So, I would say a happy spouse is a happy house. There are differences, but with communication and knowing exactly that this woman is for you, this man is for you, then you're good. And if you don't know that, I don't know. You're going to keep on attracting what you attract. Um, I watched my grandmother and grandfather, they've been married for a long time. And when they used to have disagreements, they go in the room, close the door, and unless you had your ear up to the door, you didn't know who got chewed out. And when that door opened, the discussion was over. So it's just meeting that common ground and respecting each other. And everything should work out. That's my thoughts on it.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it. Joey Lee, your mute's on.
I had one quick thing I wanted to say. Um, Another chapter I talk about, and this is something for women to think about, is, you know, men come home, they're beat up, um, you know, from work, from the competition that really isn't said that's there, but is actually there. And what does a husband need from a wife? She needs him to say, just like Jack Nicklaus's caddy. Jack Nicklaus had a caddy that did nothing like a caddy did. Um, he didn't measure distance. He didn't choose clubs. And people would ask him, "What do you do for Jack Nicklaus, the greatest golfer in the world? Why is he paying you? Just carry clubs?" Well, his answer was this, and think about it from a man and a woman's standpoint. He says, number one, I tell him he's the greatest golfer in the world. And number two, I tell him there's plenty of holes left. That's all. That's all I do. And that's what women need to do when their husbands come home and they're feeling beaten down. You know, encourage them. Tell them, hey, you're the greatest husband in the world. And you know
I'm sorry.
what?
I know. See,
We have many
I'm pretty
more
sure.
years together.
I'm pretty sure when my mother said to my father, "There are plenty of holes left," she didn't mean for him to be the whore that he was. He was. So I'm sorry. The advice you gave just now just doesn't sit well with me, coming from a father with a meandering penis. So
Said meandering. Wow.
I'm just telling you how
LJ?
God sees it. Now you see it whatever way you want. Sorry to
Can I just add?
interrupt. Sorry to
Can I
ask for
just
an
add?
extra slice of cake.
Can I just add something because I like things simplistic, so don't mind me. This is just my opinion. It's not to say anybody else is right or wrong, but Joy Lee mentioned something earlier. He posed the question. You know, a lot of people ask what is marriage for and stuff. And yes, I've heard people say, well, it's just to procreate or this, that, and other. But it's simple. It's simple. The Bible put it very simple. He said that man should not be alone. You know, he was lonely. He didn't have anybody else to communicate with. You know, he was naming the animals and this, that, and other, but he had nobody that was like-minded or that was compatible that he could talk to. And God simply said, man should not be alone. We should create someone for him to be compatible with. So, in my opinion, I feel like marriage is about that. It's about finding someone you're compatible with so you don't have to go through it on your own, and so that you guys can come up with ideas and strategies about life together. Now, if you want to make it more meaningful, you absolutely can. You know, you could say, well, I'm here, you know, to do this or that, or I'm here to change the world, or we're marrying each other because, you know, we need to bring certain things together and make different connections. But for me, I like to keep it simple and to the point, and I don't like to try to, you know, I'm one of those type of people that I'm not trying to redefine what God told me. If he said something 9 times out of 10, he meant something exactly simple, like he said. Like he said, I created woman because man was by himself and he needed somebody to communicate with.
Hey, it's even simpler than that. Okay, when like I said, I had to. I'm not a biblical scholar. We did have to study the Bible to become a minister, but that and a few other books. When it says man should not be alone, it's for selfish reasons that God said that. Okay, God had a very, very keen sense of smell. And if you leave men alone, they're not going to bathe. They just gonna stink up the place. And God's like, whoa, no, man should not be alone. He needs somebody to tell him to clean up that act. And that's all it was. Because Eve wasn't the first woman God created. It was, the Hebrews call her Lilith. But there was like a few chapters before that, God had created man and woman both out of mud, okay? And then it's like, okay, well, he didn't bathe either. We need somebody who's going to teach him how to bathe. And if he couldn't do the job, there would have been another woman to come along until someone had made him clean up his act.
That's why God called him a help meet. He needs to help him meet those obligations because men just made bad decisions, and God was like, you know what? We need somebody to come in here and disrupt this ignorance that's going on and make things right. You know what I'm saying?
And that's why.
That was
Hold on. Hey, Faith, we have Notarius. He joined the stream, and I know he's been trying to get to some light and whatnot. Can you rephrase the question for him? And I will unmute LJ and GD because these two-lettered fools over here done went into comedy right now. That's all right though. But can you rephrase it for Notarius so he can give his thoughts on it?
So, actually, I would like to ask Notarius a fresh question while I got him on here. This next question, I want everybody to try to make it under a minute or so for this next question, just because I don't want to keep you all too much longer. But this is, again, just your perspective. Again, 30 seconds to a minute. But Notarius, I'm going to start out with you. Also just letting you know the topic that we're talking about this month is touching on Women's History Month. So just different impacts that some of the women around us have done, history, your perspective, just coming from a male's perspective on certain things about women specifically. So the next question that I have is, do you think characters in popular media accurately represent women?
Characters in popular media? Is that what you're saying?
Yep. So that could be movies, music. Like, do you think that they are a good representation?
It doesn't represent women well at all. And I'll say it in 2 words: reality shows. They make women look so awful, money hungry, grubby, argumentative. I mean, just particularly awful when it comes to the mainstream of TV. It doesn't put or doesn't paint a good picture on women. And that very much sums that up for me in a nutshell. But I wanted to hit that first question that you guys had asked when you asked about who was the person who was the lady that was influential. And I know I heard Phil, I heard LJ, and then I had to get off. And we pretty much have the same question, but I think different answers. And yeah, my mom was my biggest influence. Reasoning being is that I was a 10-pound, 10-ounce child. I crowned on the 22nd, was born on the 21st or 24th, nearly killed her in the process of that birth. And for her to be as strong as she was to bring me into this world, and then a lot of the things that she taught me through life, as far as never giving up, never being a quitter. I mean, not her methods were not what you would think. I mean, I mean, I think everybody have seen, I know LJ, Phil, Faith, Joey, Frost, you guys haven't seen this set that I've done with it. It's a set that I talk about the reason why I don't smoke. And that was when I got caught smoking in the house and had to go get 3 switches. My mom braided them and beat me out of the summer of '78 because by the time I came through, it was time to go back to school. And so it was a lot of things. I mean, even when it came to athletics, she's always put me in some of the toughest position and pushed me through them, to coach me through them, to always be strong and always to maintain your bearing and do the job at the task at hand. Even when it came to football, it was a point where I actually had wanted to quit, and I could still smell that onion on that knife that she had in my face, telling me I ain't raised no damn quitter, so you taking your ass back to practice tomorrow. So that's been one. She's been that influence. I mean, teaching me. I mean, along with my grandmother, 2 women in my life that taught me how, work my way around the kitchen and be a great cook and all. And so that was my influence. But the present question, when you ask how does today's media cast on women, I think it cast a bad shadow on them. I think it casts a very bad shadow, from politics to reality TV and music videos. I mean, it just doesn't cast a good light, in my opinion, to especially when it gets to the point where women are actually reiterating or repeating some of the things that men will say in songs or things they see on TV. I think it sheds a bad light.
Well, thank you for your opinion, Natarius, and also thank you for answering that first question because it's definitely going to wrap to my last question. But we'll go ahead and take this to Mr. Phil. Do you think that characters in popular media accurately represent women? And your mute's on.
Boom. Okay. I think. Hey, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, good. I think that no. You said, do you think that characters in shows actually represent women? I think it does them a disservice. I think I would more phrase it that way from how I'm trying to explain it based on what I'm understanding of the question. And to have like role models and different lead by example type of ladies on TV, to where it's realistic and beneficial for the greater good of all of us. I think we don't have enough of that and stuff. The flavor that the women bring and stuff. Guys, if you're looking at it from that standpoint, you guys can be kind of spicy, but sometimes you need sweet. Sometimes you need lemony. You need a couple of different cuts. And with that being said, and again, also being, like I said, that girl dad and trying to figure things out with them, I would have loved to have a different president. Not to get political or anything, but in particular with the black culture and stuff, and what I've seen, to me, it seems like one of the ones that have had it the hardest is the black woman, and that's that could be debatable, but I look at it this way: that for them in slavery times, which was not very long ago, it's only a couple of generations back. You get down to the 1900s and stuff, up to 1920, you're still dealing with even Jim Crow and that sort of thing. But to see them have to, dang it, you said a minute. Okay, let me wrap it. To see them have to give up their husbands and their sons, and to see their daughters treated shamefully, and that sort of thing. The full grown black woman, to see their daughters treated shamefully and that sort of thing. That is a hurtful situation. But through that hurt, I think there was a lot of growth. Now, I'm not saying so that makes it okay. No, that doesn't make it okay. However, from those scars, we can learn some stuff. And I think that we would have done well having a strong woman who's seen the good, the bad, and the ugly in the generations and the shoulders that they stood upon, to really help out for the greater good of everybody when they had to learn meekness, which is strength under control, to be able to handle some of these heavier situations and stuff. So that's, I don't think showbiz does that. We hardly have a nice mix of what's going on, let alone the different ethnicities and people types when it comes to the everyday average female. So that's kind of how I look at it.
What about you, LJ? Do you think characters in popular media accurately represent women?
I promise I'm gonna keep this under a minute, but first, let's look at that word media. Media is pretty much a platform that's used to produce mass communication. Popular, basically, exactly what it is. It is the trending form and what have you. So now we got to look at what's popular media to who, and who are these things popular to. In my particular case, I read a lot of books, magazines. I'm a tech guy, so I'm online a lot. So it depends on what I'm looking at. I mean, I might read a book like I might read a book of the Underground Railroad that's telling me about Harriet Tubman. I might watch something on Facebook that might depict something. I might watch a reality show that might depict something. I feel like these are somewhat accurate depictions, but they don't fully give you the whole scope of women. Really, what these do, whatever you're looking at, these are actual real characteristics. Whether it be, I'm watching Jasmine Crockett break down intellectually something in Congress. That's media, and she's depicting her intelligence as a black congresswoman. Is that a good representation? Accurate? Obviously. The Big Girls Club or whatever that is, where they be fighting a lot. Are there some ratchet people like that? Yes. But to say that it's not necessarily that it accurately depicts women in full, but there are some characteristics that are real, that are there. But I don't think that it speaks to every single woman in every capacity, because women are so multifaceted that they could be anything that they desire to be or fathom, if that makes sense. So I say yes. I say yes. There are some accurate depictions, but at the same time, in popular media, depending on what media is popular to you, but at the same time, it doesn't fully characterize every single aspect and iota of a woman. If that makes sense to you. I feel like there are more layers to women, but I do feel like those layers are some, just like men, just like some of the stuff we see on TV, violence, mass executions, is that another, are those characteristics of men? Yes, we wouldn't have wars and things of that nature if it wasn't. But is that just the fullness of the character of a man? Because a man can also be loving. He can be a family guy. You know, we hear a lot in popular media about deadbeat dads, but the majority of fathers are actually there for their children and raise respectable men. So it's not an accurate depiction fully, but there is some accuracy to it, if that makes any sense.
Sure does. Thank you so much for your perspective, LJ. JD, would you like to answer this question? What characteristics, or do you think characteristics in popular media accurately represent women?
No. Now, there's two reasons for that. First of all, that's not the purpose of television. Television is, even though they say it's to inform, it's to entertain. And to entertain means you're going to dumb it down to the most basic things so people don't have to think. So, yeah, there's some aspects of people in general that they amplify to make it dumb and easy for us to digest. But part of that is also because there isn't any self-representation in there, or very little self-representation. I'm willing to bet that when they have a show like The Real Housewives of Atlanta, now I'm only saying this, picking that one because, to be honest, I don't know a damn thing about any of those shows. But I think if I've seen the commercial right, they're all black. Maybe there's a white one on there. But the thing is, I'm pretty sure that most of the writers, and those shows have writers, are men. And so self-representation, I think that, Faith, if you wrote your own story, you would portray yourself in a much better light than, let's say, if I wrote your story. Okay, because I don't know all the depths of you. My story would be like, oh yeah, Faith is intelligent and an attractive woman and a soft voice, and that's it. And you might say, yeah, but don't fuck with me. See? So if you tell your own story, it's going to be a better story than if I tell it. And I think that's part of the reason that television is so screwed up. The people who are writing the stories are not part of the world that they're writing for. So that's it. I think that was 1 minute and 12 seconds, and no,
You're good. No, we appreciate it, JD. Or GD. Oh my gosh, I need a cup of coffee. Okay. DJ
here.
Frost, gonna go ahead and take it to you. Do you think characters in popular media accurately represent women?
DJ Frost, that's on you, bro.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the right words. I listen to a lot of music. One, because I'm a DJ and I'm an on-air personality. Uh, but to answer the question, I would like to say, to a certain extent, yes. Not all women act like the women in the music industry, but for the most part, you ask them, you ask a few women who they listen to, and they gonna say Sexy Red or something like this or whatever, for whatever reasons they listen to it. And I mean, I'm a grown man. I have a daughter. I got children, period. They're all grown. And I try to tell them, don't let what they hear and see on TV get them in trouble. Be- uh, Facebook or YouTube is the new encyclopedia. So whatever you say or whatever a female rapper says, it's gonna haunt her when she grows, when she's grown, but when she mentally grows up and start with the rap game and start being a mom, her daughter gonna be like, well, mom, what was your thought when you said this? What was your thought when you, oh girl, I was just rapping, I was just trying to get that paper. But if people stick to their guns, if that's how you feel, then that's how you feel. Um, I just see a lot of females want to try to be like what they see and hear on TV. And to me, that's not good because you don't know what those females went through to get where they're at. That's my thoughts on that.
Well, we definitely appreciate your perspective because you're also, like you mentioned, you're a DJ. So your perspective when it comes to media is in a totally different light than some of us could see because we don't directly work in media such as you do. So we really, again, appreciate having you and you sharing your opinion as well. We're going to do one last wrap up question. And this is, again, we'll try to keep this under a minute, but what is the best lesson that a woman taught you? This doesn't have to be, it could be any woman in your life, but just a lesson that you learned from a woman that you would like to share.
You want to start
And
with Joey? He didn't get a chance to go.
Who did I miss? Oh, Joey Lee. Actually, I'm sorry, Joey Lee. Go ahead. You can go ahead and answer that last question. I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
Do you think characters in popular media accurately represent women?
Yeah, I think no, because, and especially where you notice it is in the area of intimacy. We'll just call it intimacy. So what's going on, I think, is of course men gravitate towards, it rhymes with corn, and they see, hey, women are going to come up to me, they're going to like take all their stuff off and like offer like, let's do it. And men are like, oh wow, let's do it. Yeah, and wham bam, thank you, ma'am, we're done. And men are taught that's how they treat women. On the other perspective, the biggest genre outside of the Bible is romance novels. Those are dangerous because they paint the man in the story as perfect. He's Fabio. He's got all these muscles and 16 packs or whatever. And women then look at their husband and say, oh, this guy doesn't measure up to Fabio. So, I don't love that guy anymore. I want Fabio. I don't want my husband. He's imperfect. So both are teaching the other the wrong things. And, I always tell people that when we talk about my book is women are like crock pots, men are like microwaves. And also women, you should think of women as men as like fine, like a Stradivarius. It's a fine, delicate, priceless thing. And those who know how to play it well will make beautiful music. And that's really the concept of that intimacy area that I think men need to learn from. Um, there needs to be more romance. There needs to be more um, flirting, dating after marriage. I really, really, really think is very important. Men see marriage as the finish line. Hey, I got married. Now I can focus on my career. Women see it as the beginning. And so men need to continue romancing their wives um, throughout their marriage, coming up with times to do fun things together like you did before you were married. So, what do you think, Miss James? Did I hit it? Did I hit anything on the head?
Absolutely. And we value your perspective as well, because again, you guys are all touching on different notes with this question, and that is the entire purpose of this podcast. For this last question, I'm gonna switch up the order. So I'm actually going to have DJ Frost go first, then I'll have Joey Lee go second, GD go third, LJ, and then Mr. Phil. But again, we'll try to keep this under 1 minute, and then we'll let y'all go. Again, really appreciate you guys being here and welcoming me as your host. But the last question is, what is the best lesson that a woman has taught you? And if it's all right with you, DJ Frost, I would love for you to go first.
Thank you. My grandmother, it's hard to say the one thing she taught me. She just taught me how to treat everybody right, and until you need to treat them different. Try to treat everybody you come across right. That's it.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. Joey Lee, what is the best lesson that a woman taught you? Oh, your mute's on. There we go. Oh, there we go.
This is going to sound weird, but it was my ex-wife. You say, that sounds weird. Well, why I wrote this book was because there were things on her side that she did, but there were things that I did too, and that I own up to. And I wish I could have changed things. I wish I had a book like this that would have taught me how to be a good husband and a good father, and not just a good worker. And as a backdrop to this book, I wrote it because I wanted it to be my way of, I can't change the past, but I can change the future. Is my way of of contributing to others what I learned by mistake and put in this book so that they wouldn't do it. So I guess in a way, um, I'm sad that our marriage ended, but you know, God gives you scars so that you can go out and help others as well. So I got some scars in my life, and through my marriage with my wife and ex-wife, and but that caused me to do something like this. That's my answer.
Thank you for sharing. GD, would you like to go next in answering this question? What is the best lesson that a woman taught you? Oh, your mute's on. It's okay.
I was in my 20s. I was engaged to a model, and she had a tendency of sleeping around. And I took it personally for the longest time that, you know, like, she's cheating on me. She's cheating on me. And what I learned from that relationship was that you have to be true to yourself. You know, if she was her true self, she was not a monogamous person and didn't know how to be monogamous. And maybe if I had known that before, I could have said, okay, we can have a relationship and I accept the fact that you're not monogamous. But that's not what I wanted. I wanted a monogamous relationship. So I learned that I cannot control her or people, and you accept them for who they are, where they are. It's nothing personal. If she cheated, or in matter of fact, I don't even, as an adult, I don't even think of it as cheating. I'm just saying now because that's how I viewed it then, that she cheated on me. But if she didn't sleep around, she'd have been cheating on herself, because that wasn't her nature. You have to be true to yourself, and you accept people for who they are. And if they're not the people you want them to be, then don't have them in your life. Don't try to change them.
Well, thank you for sharing. We appreciate you.
But I miss her so bad. No, I'm just teasing. She was so fine. No, sorry.
LJ, are you ready to answer this question? Yep. What is the best lesson that a woman has taught you?
You know what? I learned a very hard lesson from my grandmother. She didn't really take to the side of my mother. Now, my mother had a sister, and that sister was praised. My mother wasn't, and you know, she treated the children differently. But that's not the lesson that I learned from her. The lesson I learned from her was, you know, in that time of her treating us a certain way, when it came time, when it came time for her to take her, you know, final breaths, she reached out. And my father would always be like, you should go see your grandma, this, that, and the other. She asked for you. And my thought was, you know, what's the purpose of me coming to you now to appease you on your deathbed if you didn't show me any love in your life? So the lesson that I learned was to treat everyone. And sometimes you don't know who you're going to need or whatever. So I try to treat everyone, even people, especially people I love, but regardless of how I feel about you, if I feel about you or whatever, I try to treat everyone with some love and care so that when I have those moments, I don't have any regrets. When my mother and father passed, I wasn't one of those children that had any regrets because I did everything I could to be a good son to my mother and father. Was I a good son? No, all my years, no. I've messed up. I've done some wrong, but in my mature years, I did everything to take care of my mother and father and make sure that everything was comfortable for them. So when they passed on, I didn't have any regrets, and there was some regrets there. I don't want to have those regrets. So I know to treat people in my current life the way I would want them to treat me as I'm passing. And so I learned that we should always show love and consideration because one day we're going to all meet our maker. We're going to call out to those people, and it wouldn't be their fault that they weren't there. It would be your fault because why would this person care to come around you after you mistreated them for so long? And I have some family members that are probably going to feel differently because they were the ones that were treated better, but this is my reality. I feel like I was mistreated. Did I harbor any hatred or anything towards them? No, but I felt that why would I bring myself around you when you've already distanced yourself from me? For you to further distance me, I'm not going to take those chances or opportunities and give you that opportunity. I don't know if that's what was going to happen, but that's how I felt, so I didn't go. So I learned in that moment, always be as good of a person as you can to people so that they can reciprocate that same love that you passed out to them.
It's a great lesson. Thank you for sharing. Definitely important. Mr. Phil, you ready to wrap it up with this question? What is the best lesson a woman has taught you?
I think the best lesson that I've been taught, it still goes back. It still goes back to my mother. As I watched how her and my dad lived their life of being married, and raise us three kids, which from his standpoint, he was more old school, and he was just about, hey, let's earn this money. You got a house, got a roof over your head. You got cars. You got, you're set. You guys are living in a good neighborhood. You're going to a half decent school. You're in extracurriculars and all that sort of thing. And then that's kind of where it kind of stopped. Not that was just I mean, that was admirable to have it like that and stuff in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. But what wound up happening was, and I'm sure these guys can see it from this point of view also. I spent a lot of time with my mom, especially as her eldest, and as I watched her and how she operated with my dad, I could see times when she was frustrated and stuff, because she'd be like, "Hey, we're going to church," and he's dragging his feet, and, going slow and all that sort of thing, and we're getting there late or whatever. He's, coming out looking crazy, and the rest of us are looking good. And when I say looking crazy, I mean like you ain't got to wear them jeans that's all wrinkled up and all that stuff, and just kind of passive aggressive. But the point is, as I watched how things went, what I learned was I didn't want my wife to feel like that. I didn't want my wife to be frustrated. I didn't want to frustrate my children, if you will. And in watching her try to be long suffering in just the antics of there being them being married for so many years and stuff, and I'm just like, why are you giving mom a hard time? My dad's first answer to everything was pretty much no. Can I go on my note? And he wouldn't put any thought into it. He just like, nope. And there wouldn't be any rhyme or reason because he's like, I don't have to have any rhyme or reason. He was a hardcore Marine, old school Ohio State football player and all that sort of thing. But his first answer was no. And where, we go to mom, mom, and all that stuff. And she'd go and be like, Phil, let him. I'm named after my dad and stuff. Phil, let him. And he'd be like, all right, and kind of go from there. But long story short, to bring it in for a landing, I didn't want my wife to feel like that. I didn't want my wife to feel like she's got to drag me, with me digging in my heels or kicking and screaming or, hey, this is how I said it's going to be. This is just, that kind of thing. And again, he wasn't mean. He was just difficult, like a mule. You just come on now, and you got to put the carrot out there and kind of go from there. I didn't want to do that, and I didn't want my kids to see that and think that that's just what a man is and stuff. I think it takes a lot more strength now as I'm grown to say yes and what's the question, and try to figure out a way to get things to work for the greater good for whatever circles you're traveling in. And this example, it would have been my kids. They ask me stuff, and I think about it and be like, does that make sense, or is it going to hurt them? Or I'm not just saying no just because I don't feel like breaking away from the football game at that moment. At least I'm gonna be like, hey, can we wait till halftime? That kind of thing. So I think that's about how I feel about what the biggest thing I've learned from the most important female in my life up until when I got married. So I think that's all I have to say about that.
All right. Well, thank you guys for sharing your opinions and your perspectives. Again, thank you for allowing me to host as just someone that wants to gain your guys' perspective and share it with the people that watch this. I'll go ahead
Hey,
and
Miss
let you
James.
close out, Mr. Phil.
Hey, Miss James. This is
Yes.
kind of like the dating game.
Oh, you think?
Yeah. So who do you pick?
Oh
Who would
Lord.
It's
you
like
like to
I feel like
go
it's like an
to an
interview.
all expense? Who would you like to go to an all expenses paid trip to Waldo, Ohio, and eat fried bologna in a candlelight restaurant? Which one of us would
Miss
you
FJ,
pick based on our answers?
we appreciate your gracefulness as you deal with us. If you want to say goodbye to us, we will go
I'm
ahead and exit.
sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. You guys are comedians. You guys keep the jokes coming. Yes. All right, you guys enjoy the rest of your night. And for those that we'll see next month, we look forward to that. Again, thank you guys for all being a part of this. Remember to check out MPSCentertainmentllc.com for all the events. And for those of you watching to see some of these comedians up on the stage, remember to check out the events. Reach out if you need anything from us. And we will talk to you guys next month.
See you, Faithy. Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye bye. Thank you.